A crisp October morning in the heart of Oregon, where the mist dances through towering pines and a little girl's courage changes everything. Hey there, friends. Welcome to a tale that'll warm your soul and tug at your heartstrings. It's the story of 5-year-old Sophie Bennett, a pint-sized hero in a hand-me-down red coat, who stumbles into Timberlake Forest and finds herself face-to-face with a trapped wolf and his fierce pack. What unfolds is a journey of trust, bravery, and a bond that shakes up her sleepy town of Pine Hollow forever. This is a story of wild beauty, small-town grit, and the kind of love that echoes through the trees, a true Pacific Northwest legend. If you're ready for an adventure that feels like a cozy hug from the wilderness, hit that subscribe button and join us. Let's dive into Sophie's world together. Trust me, you won't want to miss a second of this. It was a crisp October morning in Pine Hollow, Oregon, when the quiet of the dawn was shattered by a sound that stopped 5-year-old Sophie Bennett in her tracks. The mist hung low over the sprawling Timberlake Forest, curling through the towering Douglas firs like a soft breath from the earth, when a cry, sharp, pained, and unmistakably alive, pierced the stillness. Sophie, a tiny figure in a hand-me-down red coat, stood frozen among the trees, her blonde braids swaying as she tilted her head to listen. She wasn't supposed to be here, deep in the woods her grandma Rose had warned her against, where shadows stretched long and the air hummed with secrets. But that howl, raw with desperation, tugged at her heart like a kite string caught in the wind. With her sneakers crunching pine needles and her breath puffing in the chilly air, Sophie crept forward, pushing through a tangle of blackberry bushes. When she peeked past a cluster of ferns near Elk Ridge, her blue eyes widened in awe. There, caught in the cruel jaws of a steel trap, lay a massive wolf, its gray coat streaked with silver, blood matting the fur around its trapped leg. 5 female wolves stood guard around him, their lean forms tense with protective fury, their amber eyes locking onto Sophie with a fierceness that might have scared another child. But in the trapped wolf's gaze, she saw something softer, a plea, a spark of trust that felt like it reached across time to touch her soul. In that tender moment, as sunlight filtered through the canopy, little Sophie Bennett made a choice that would weave her life into the wild heart of Timberlake Forest and change her small town forever. Timberlake Forest stretched across the western edge of Jackson County like a living legend, its dense pines and hidden meadows a sanctuary where deer roamed free and owls called through the night. It was a place of beauty and mystery, feeding the soul of Pine Hollow, a cozy town of cedar-shingled homes and winding dirt roads where folks gathered at the general store or swapped stories over pie at Daisy's Cafe. The forest sustained the community, loggers trimmed its edges, hunters brought home venison, but its deeper reaches remained untamed, a wild frontier that stirred both pride and a quiet unease. Tales of strange sightings, shadows moving in the mist, howls that sounded like songs, kept kids close to home and fueled late-night chats by the wood stove. On the forest's fringe stood a weathered cabin, its porch sagging but warm with love, home to Sophie and her grandma Rose Harper. 2 years earlier, Sophie's world had crumbled when her parents, forest rangers who patrolled Timberlake, died in a truck accident on Widow's Bend during a fierce storm. Their bodies were never recovered, lost to the ravine, leaving Sophie with Rose, a spry woman with silver hair and hands skilled in gardening and mending. Now, at 5, Sophie carried a gentle spirit and eyes too wise for her age, often wandering near the woods despite Rose's pleas, drawn by a pull she couldn't name. Sophie had always been special. Blue jays perched on her windowsill, pecking at crumbs she left. Squirrels chattered at her feet without fear, and once, a deer lingered near the cabin, watching her with soft eyes. That girl's got the forest in her blood, folks would say at the feed store, half smiling, half worried. The whispers grew louder after Mayor Tom Wheeler, a burly man with a booming voice and a knack for rallying the town, declared the wolves a threat. A string of livestock losses, chickens gone from coops, a lamb missing from Carter's farm, had sparked panic. Those wolves only understand one thing. Tom had thundered at the town hall, pounding the table, his flannel shirt stretched tight. "We'll protect what's ours." The crowd roared, fear finding a voice in his bravado. Rose, sitting in the back with Sophie's small hand in hers, felt a knot tighten in her chest. She'd slipped out early, sensing trouble brewing for the wild she'd always cherished. That morning, as frost sparkled on the grass, Sophie stood at her window, watching mist rise from the trees like spirits waking up. It was the anniversary of her parents' death. A day that always stirred a longing in her chest. "Breakfast, Soph," Rose called, her voice warm but tinged with age. Sophie lingered, feeling a tug she couldn't ignore, then joined her for oatmeal with a drizzle of maple syrup. "I want to take flowers to Mama and Daddy's place," she said, poking at her bowl. Rose frowned, her lined face softening with concern. "You know the mayor's rules, honey. No forest trips. Not with this wolf fuss." She brushed a strand of blonde hair from Sophie's face. "I've got quilts to deliver to Mrs. Larson today. Stay near the house, okay?" Sophie nodded, her blue eyes wide with a promise she didn't mean to keep. Rose studied her a moment, then grabbed her sewing basket and headed out, the screen door creaking shut. Sophie waited, counting 10 slow minutes like her daddy had taught her, 60 seconds each. Steady as a drum, then slipped outside, a handful of marigolds clutched tight, their golden petals trembling in her grip. The forest loomed just past the garden, its edge calling her like an old friend. "Just quick," she whispered, stepping into the wild where town rules faded and nature's voice took over. Sophie knew the path to her parents' memorial, a quiet clearing near Widow's Bend where wildflowers bloomed even in fall. A secret spot she'd tended since their loss. She'd stack pebbles there, talk to the breeze, and feel them near. The trees thickened as she went, sunlight dappling the ground, birds singing overhead, a wren's trill, a crow's caw. Then, near Elk Ridge, a new sound stopped her, a clank of metal, a thrashing wail. Her marigold slipped from her hand, scattering like confetti, as she turned north. Deeper into Timberlake than she'd ever gone alone. Rose's warnings clashed with her daddy's voice in her memory. "Help what needs help in, sophomore. That's what's right." The terrain grew rough, rocks jutting up, roots snagging her sneakers, but the cries sharpened, mixed with growls that prickled her skin. She should have turned back, every story, every rule screamed it. But her heart, small but bold, pushed her on, drawn by a call she couldn't resist. Rounding a lichen-covered rock, she saw him, a gray wolf, huge and noble, his silver-streaked coat bloodied by a trap on his leg. 5 females circled him, fierce and watchful, their eyes pinning her with a warning growl. Her breath hitched, but the alpha's gaze held her, a silent cry for help, a trust that rooted her to the spot. "You're hurt," she whispered, stepping forward, her voice shaky but certain. Sophie Bennett stood at the edge of the clearing in Timberlake Forest, her 5-year-old frame a fragile speck against the towering wolves and ancient firs. The trapped alpha's gray coat shimmered with silver streaks in the morning light, blood pooling around his snared leg, his amber eyes burning with pain and resilience. 5 female wolves surrounded him, their bodies taut with protective rage, their stares slicing through Sophie with an intensity that might have sent a grown-up running. The dark one with a scarred ear bared her teeth, hackles rising, while the others paced, their growls a deep hum in the earth. Fear tickled Sophie's spine, her small hands clutching her coat, but her daddy's words rang clear: respect what's wild. Soph, and it'll respect you. She took a trembling step, the pack's tension flaring, their snarls a low chorus. I can help, she said softly, recalling how her daddy had once shown her a trap he'd taken from a poacher, cold steel he'd called mean and wrong. The scarred-ear female lunged half a step, teeth flashing, but the alpha's low sound, part growl, part plea, halted her, a ripple of calm spreading through the pack. Sophie dropped to her knees, making herself small, her heart pounding as she edged closer, her blue eyes flickering between the wolves and the trap. The air buzzed with danger, the females pacing a dance of distrust and hope around their fallen leader. At 10 feet, their stares felt like needles. At 8, their wild scent, musky and sharp, mixed with the coppery tang of blood. I won't hurt you, she murmured, her breath puffing white in the cool air. At 6 feet, she saw the trap's cruel jaws, built for bigger game, now biting deep into the wolf's leg. 5 feet, the alpha's breathing quickened, his eyes locked on hers with a depth that stole her breath, a call she couldn't ignore. 4 feet, she spotted the release latch, rusted but familiar from her daddy's lessons. 3 feet, her fingers shook as they hovered near the steel, the pack's growls fading into a watchful hush. I'm not scared, she whispered, a fib to steady herself, and with a breath pulled from the forest's soul, she pressed the catch. The trap fought back, its spring too strong for her small hands. She pushed harder, and the wolf flinched, a sharp yelp sparking a rumble from the females. Sorry, Sophie whimpered, tears welling as she wiped her nose on her sleeve. She braced her sneaker against a rock, remembering her daddy's trick, use the ground strength, sophomore. With a grunt, she leaned in, pressing the latch while pushing against the earth. For a moment, nothing moved, then, with a harsh snap, the jaws sprang open. The alpha yanked his leg free, blood dripping as he stumbled, faltered, then stood, his frame trembling but proud. Sophie scooted back, her sneakers slipping on moss, as 3 females surged to his side, licking his wound with gentle care, while 2 stood between her and their leader, their eyes cautious but calm. The scarred-ear female nuzzled him tenderly, and Sophie watched, all washing over her fear. Her hands fumbled in her coat pocket, pulling out a tin of Grandma Rose's salve, calendula and pine resin. A remedy Rose swore could fix most hurts. It'll help, she said, her voice steadier, opening the tin to reveal the earthy paste. The wolves froze, ears twitching, but the alpha limped toward her, step by halting step, his dignity unshaken. At 6 feet, he stopped, sniffing the offering, his warm breath brushing her palm. Then, with a grace that defied his pain, he lay down, stretching his wounded leg toward her. Sophie's heart swelled, her fingers trembling as she dabbed the salve onto the torn flesh. He tensed, a low whine escaping, but held still. His amber eyes watching her with a trust that felt like a gift. "Might sting a little," she murmured, tearing her red scarf, knit by Rose last Christmas, into a strip, wrapping it gently around his leg. "Rest it," she instructed, her tone serious as if he might nod. He rose, testing the bandage, and met her gaze, a look that felt like a promise sealed in silence. The pack melted into the trees, their forms vanishing with a grace that left Sophie breathless, alone with the sprung trap and blood-stained ground. The walk home was heavy, her small legs dragging under the weight of what she'd done and the rules she'd broken. The forest, once a comforting hug, now whispered warnings, twigs snapping, leaves rustling, heightening her unease. The sun was high when she reached the cabin yard, Grandma Rose on the porch. Her silver hair glinting, her face a mix of worry and relief. "Sophie Grace Bennett, where've you been?" she called, her voice sharp but her arms pulling Sophie into a hug that smelled of lavender and earth. The story poured out, the wolf, the trap, the rescue, her words tumbling like leaves in a storm. Rose's blue eyes darkened, darting to the woods. "Inside, quick," she ordered, locking the door with a firmness Sophie rarely saw. The cabin felt small, shadows long as Rose checked the windows, her hands trembling slightly. "What did you do, child?" she asked. Sinking into her rocker, her voice low, the shotgun leaning nearby, a relic from her late husband's hunting days. Before Sophie could answer, a knock shook the door. Rose peered out, then opened it to Sheriff Luke Daniels, his hat in hand, flanked by Mayor Tom Wheeler and his son, Jake, a lanky 12-year-old with freckles and a shy grin. "Afternoon, Rose," Luke said, nodding. "Need to talk." Tom's gaze pinned Sophie, her muddy sneakers and missing scarf evidence enough. "Been in the forest, little miss?" "Near Elk Ridge," he boomed. Sophie's stomach flipped. How'd he know? Rose stepped forward. "What's this about, Tom?" Luke shifted, uneasy. "Hunter saw a girl like Sophie near his trap line this morning. Said it was sprung, wolf blood everywhere. Legal trap, Rose, permitted for the wolf issue." Tom's face hardened. "Your girl's interfering, broke town rules. Could have riled a killer." Sophie's voice piped up, small but firm. "I didn't hurt him. I saved him." Tom's scowl deepened. "That wolf's been stealing livestock, Carter's lamb, Larson's hens. They're dangerous." Rose's grip tightened on Sophie's shoulder. "She's 5, Tom. Let it go." Luke nodded. "Just a warning, Rose. Keep her out. Hunts next week." Tom smirked. "Wolves don't forget meddlers. Watch her." They left, Jake glancing back with a flicker of wonder. Rose shut the door, pulling Sophie close. "You're brave, Soph, but wild things come with risks. Them wolves mean something to you now, don't they?" Sophie nodded, feeling Rose's heartbeat, and whispered, "They're like family." That night, sleep eluded her, her dreams swirling with wolf eyes. At dawn, she peeked out, and there he was. The alpha, standing at the forest's edge, her red scarf still on his leg, a silent guardian. Her heart warmed, a bond born in the wild that no town could break. Dawn broke gently over Pine Hollow, Oregon, the mist weaving through Timberlake Forest like a soft lullaby. Sophie Bennett sat on her bed, breath fogging the window as she watched the gray wolf, her wolf, stand sentinel at the tree line. His silver-streaked coat glowed in the early light, her red scarf still wrapped around his healing leg, a symbol of their quiet pact. She'd named him Storm for the gray swirls in his fur. A name that felt like home. Downstairs, Grandma Rose's voice called, "Breakfast, sophomore." Sophie patted down, the scent of pancakes and coffee filling the air as Rose eyed her over her mug. "You saw that wolf again, didn't you?" she asked, her tone soft but knowing. Sophie nodded, sliding into her chair. "He's watching us, Grandma." Rose sighed, her silver hair catching the light. "Your daddy thought them wolves were special, keepers of Timberlake. Told me stories from his pa's time, how the pack guided folks through tough winters, choosing who to trust. Said they saw something in us worth protecting. Sophie's blue eyes sparkled. "Like Daddy?" Rose's smile crinkled her face. "Like him, and you, honey." A scratch at the door startled them. Rose grabbed the shotgun, peering out, then gasped. A fresh-killed rabbit lay on the mat, a gift with no blood marring its fur. "From your friends," she murmured, awe in her voice. All day, wolves shadowed the cabin, 5 of them, taking turns like guards. Storm appeared at dawn and dusk, his legs stronger, while the females watched, dusk with her scarred ear. Breeze the quick one, ember with reddish fur, and mist and rain, the gray twins. Rose softened. "Talk to them from here, but don't go close." Sophie chattered to them daily, naming them with glee. Her voice a bridge between worlds. By week's end, Storm's limp faded, and the wolves kept a respectful distance, a silent promise of protection. Word spread in Pine Hollow, whispers of the wolf girl. Kids teased, but Jake Wheeler rode by, curious. "They real?" he asked from the fence. Sophie nodded, and Storm stepped out, flanked by dusk and breeze. Jake paled but stayed. "Pa didn't set that trap, Uncle Ray did. He's back, huntin' wolves for money. Hunts in 3 days." Sophie's heart sank. "They'll kill them all." Jake frowned. "It's wrong. Pa's in it, loggin' cash." He bolted as Rose called Sophie in, spilling the plot. Ray, her dad's brother, and Tom planned to clear Timberlake after the hunt. Rose's face hardened. "Ray blamed your daddy for this land. I think he cut their brakes." She rummaged a trunk for her son's journals, missing. A howl pierced the air, Storm, pacing, urgent. "They know," Sophie whispered. Shouts echoed from town, men with rifles. Early for the hunt. Rose loaded the shotgun. "Not again." Sophie insisted, "We need Daddy's journals, at the Thunder Oak." Rose nodded. "I'll stall them. Take them to Luke." With her daddy's compass. She slipped out back, dusk guiding her to the oak. Inside its hollow, she found a locked box, opened with her necklace key, 3 journals, proof of Ray's crimes. Men closed in. Dogs barking. Dusk shielded her as Ray and Tom's voices neared, chasing the pack. Jake appeared, breathless. "Got Pa's report," your dad's last one. They killed him. Headlights flared, Ray's truck. Rose tied inside. Sophie gave Jake the evidence. Get Luke. Storm and the pack emerged, fierce and noble. Grandma's in trouble, she told them. They tracked the truck to the old mill, where Ray and Tom admitted murdering her parents for logging rights. Sophie snuck in as wolves howled, stalling them. Dusk lunged at Ray, shot midair, dying to save her as Sheriff Luke burst in, arresting the men. At dawn, Sophie mourned Dusk beside Storm, their bond a bridge of love and loss. The journals and Jake's report exposed the truth, stopping the hunt. Timberlake became a sanctuary. Sophie its heart, her wolves thriving with a new pup, proof that love endures, a legacy reborn in Oregon's wild embrace. From the wild heart of Timberlake Forest, Sophie Bennett's story leaves us with a powerful lesson. Compassion and courage can bridge even the widest divides, between a little girl and a wolf, between a town and the wilderness it calls home. It's a reminder that in our busy lives, taking a moment to listen, to help, and to stand up for what's right can ripple out and change the world around us. No matter how small we feel. Sophie saw a spark of trust in a wounded wolf's eyes and chose love over fear, a choice that didn't just save a life but healed a community. It's the kind of everyday heroism we can all tap into. Whether it's lending a hand to a neighbor or protecting what we hold dear. So, what do you think, friends? What's a moment when you've seen kindness or bravery make a difference? Drop it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories. And if this tale touched your heart, give it a like, share it with someone who needs a lift, and let's keep spreading that warmth together. What's next for Pine Hollow? Stick around to find out.